Welcome viewers. This is a very interesting and exciting program on spiritual intelligence. Sometimes it can come as a surprise to you. We have been talking about so many types of intelligence. Primarily, the cognitive intelligence is talked about. Scientists say that as soon as the fetus takes shape in the 4th month of pregnancy, then the intelligence starts. We have a mythological story of Abhimanyu learning how to penetrate Chakravyuh while still being in the womb of his mother. Western scientists believe that 35% of the cognitive intelligence is passed on from the parents to the child. With the process of growing up, when the physical development takes place, the psychological and the mental development of the child also takes place. There the cognition has a role to play. This cognitive intelligence increases but stabilizes at the age of 18. We know that the person has to have stable intelligence when he or she achieves the age of 18. Then comes the concept of emotional intelligence, which is given by Daniel Goleman, and it is said that only the theoretical knowledge is not enough. Ability to apply that knowledge with success in a practical field is considered to be the emotional intelligence. Goleman said that the crux of emotional intelligence is to be smart about managing one's own emotions. And then the aspects related to the self awareness, that is where the strengths and weaknesses of an employee can be judged. The aspects related to the self regulation, where knowing where the negative effect of emotions is taking place and correcting them as soon as any deviation is found. Then the self motivation aspect of emotional intelligence, where the person is passionate about work, not working for money only. Then the concept of empathy, that is where feeling like others, putting ourselves in others' shoes was the hallmark of emotional intelligence. And social skills, the group level intelligence, that is one to many skills, where the person should have persuasiveness, should have high degree of team building skills, and should be highly motivated to lead a team of large number of followers. So, that was the concept of emotional intelligence. But it is being said nowadays that IQ and EQ both are not complete till they are supplemented by optimum level of SQ, that is the spiritual quotient. So, in this particular program on spiritual intelligence, we will talk about what do we mean by spirituality, how it affects a person's performance, what is SQ, how it can be measured, and then what are the different ways to improve one's own SQ. Spiritual intelligence, as the term itself suggests, that one has to be concerned with not only this world, but in the world that goes beyond that. There are many terms which are in vogue for spiritual intelligence. They are referred as the soul's intelligence. It is another term which is used is self actualization also. When we find the literature, Dana Johar's definition of spiritual intelligence comes in, which says that spiritual intelligence is about the human need and talent for finding meaning in existence. That is what it is, that why we are existing, what is the purpose of our life, what is the meaning of our existence, how can we serve the fellow human beings, how can we serve the entire humanity. That would be the crux of spiritual intelligence. Basically, higher level of spirituality can only be experienced, it cannot be expressed, in the sense that we may talk about reason and logic all our lives, but we may not understand whatever we are trying to do until and unless we come face to face with spiritual intelligence. Lord Shri Krishna in Srimad Bhagavad Gita has also said that knowledge will tell you about the words. It is the experience which will tell you about the meaning of those words. So, that is where once again, when we have to learn about spiritual intelligence, then we have to actually know the meaning, and that meaning will come to us by the experience only. So, we can say spiritual intelligence is about having a direction in life. It is also about being able to know what is our spiritual makeup, and it is also about how we can use spirituality to heal ourselves, to make ourselves healthier, and to rid of all the resentments and all the negative aspects of life. So, that is where we can say that we should be concentrating on issues like how the person is leading the life, in which direction this life is headed, whether the direction that the life has taken is that of values, is that of ethics and morality or not. So, then if somebody is being spiritually intelligent, then he or she can evaluate himself or herself that whether his SQ is of the optimum level or not, and once that is of optimum level, then the person can be rest assured that the direction that he has chosen for spirituality is in the right direction, and then the life that person is leading is full of virtues, is full of values, full of ethics and full of moralities. We also know that there has been many attempts to compare different types of intelligence: the cognitive intelligence, emotional intelligence, creative intelligence and spiritual intelligence. And it is said that that the ultimate intelligence is the spiritual intelligence, in the sense that we can say that this is the intelligence which is used to solve problems of meaning and value, in the sense that what is the meaning of life and which value we give the highest weightage. So, meaning of life must be clear to us, and we can always keep on asking ourselves the questions like this, that whatever I am doing, whether I am doing it right or wrong, then similarly whether I am getting any sense of fulfillment out of doing that job or not. So, these are the issues that basically are addressed in spiritual intelligence, and then people will say that whether my life is having some purpose for other people. I am living my life for myself, that would be selfishness, but what can I do for others? There can be number of examples that nowadays we are seeing that people are making a will regarding donating their organs after the death, and it has been also found that biologically and medical experts also say that many of the organs, if donated within the right time period, they can be of immense value. And so, a person who knows that after his death these organs will be useless and these organs may be destroyed as a process of cremation, but then if he or she takes this conscious decision that I am going to donate my organs, then definitely some needy and handicapped persons can get new meaning in life. I say that this could also be a good example of spiritual intelligence. Similarly, we can say that when we have to talk about the spirituality, and especially from the human beings point of view, then we can ask ourselves these three questions. The first question is that who am I? मैं कौन हूँ? And that is where this answer is not an easy one. Many a times when you give answer to this question, then you are basically describing yourself. while in the context of spiritual intelligence, when we ask you this question, who are you, or when you ask yourself this question, who am I, then the answer that must come should be your definition, not your description. And then only you will be forced to look within. You will be doing the introspection. And when you look within, then you find that what is the spirituality framework that you are having. Some people may feel that the concept of God, and then this concept of God can have different meanings for different people. But when we look at this concept of God, there is some interesting things come to our mind. That what is God? God is G for generator, O for operator, D for destroyer. And so, that is where we say generator is Brahma, operator is Vishnu, destroyer is Mahesh. So, Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh, the Trinity is God. And so, that is where when we have to look at the concept of God, we have to ourselves be the generator, we have to be Srijak, creator, and then whatever we have created, then we have to nurture that. So, we have to be the operator, and sometimes we may have to destroy. This destruction is not done in bad sense. Lord Shiva has been responsible for many destruction, but all destruction is not bad, because we know that from destruction, this destruction is for reconstruction, recreation, and so something better will emerge out of it. So, that is where what is the individual person's concept of God, that we will have to keep in mind. Now, somebody may say that I do not believe in God, and then that person may say that God is, that person may very well say that God is nowhere. But do you know that there is very interesting thing here, that if we have a gap here, then what does it become? It becomes God is now here, yahan or abhi. That is what we say, God is all pervasive, God is omnipresent. And so, then if anybody is trying to turn a blind eye to the spiritual side of his life, of his career, of his performance, then it would be a mistake. So, that is why we say that one must try to find out the correct answer to this question number 1, that is, who am I? And so, one must look within and come out with this answer in an honest manner. Sometimes a person may have to take help from others. For that, he may receive the feedback. In the light of the feedback, he may assess and reassess himself, and then finally he can come to the conclusion. This self realization is also must. Second question that the spirituality poses towards the humanity is that where am I going? मैं कहाँ जा रहा हूँ, मैं क्या कर रहा हूँ? Where am I going? What is the purpose of my journey? What is my destination? What is my end result? What is it that I want to achieve? Whether it is the material success, whether it is the physical success only, whether it is the financial success only. And by the way, the concept of success is also very relative. What I consider as success, others may not consider it as a parameter of success. So, everybody's opinion or everybody's viewpoint about success is also different. So, then we must know where am I going, what is it that I want to do, what is the secret of my success, that also I must be knowing. Then third and last question that the spirituality poses towards us is that what do others mean to me? Do they mean something to me, or they don't, in a way they don't exist for me, or they are only as important as insects are to you? So, then this is another third question that every human being should ask himself or herself, that what do others mean for me? Do I give them some value? Do I give them some recognition? Then only I will be able to give them the proper importance. So, these are the three questions that every conscientious person should ask of himself or herself. And when you are able to give answers to these three questions earnestly, then you will be able to develop your own spiritual intelligence framework. So, basically the spiritual intelligence motivates people to balance their work pressures and also to spend time with the family. So, what we commonly say work life balance, and this work life balance can also be decided in the sense that when we try to balance work with life, then definitely the better interpersonal relations develop. Then when we find that the person who is working in the office, he is more happy and more satisfied, and at the family front also, that the happiness index is high. So, spirituality will lead you to achieving better work life balance. Then also we may see that if a business manager, and especially we are talking about the top level management of a company, if he or she is having high spiritual quotient, then what will happen? Then he will not like to put more emphasis on profit. Definitely the profit has to be earned, because it is a question of the survival and existence of the entire business organization. But then earning profit through unethical means will not be the agenda of such a highly spiritually oriented person. So, the top management of a company, if he or she has high SQ, then it is quite likely that the business organization would also have more or less the same kind of value system. The example of Satyam can be given here. If the top management, in this case Mr. Raju, if he were having high level of spiritual intelligence, and if he were showing more morality and ethics, then probably this whole controversy involving Satyam would not have come to the fore. Similarly, we also find that the spiritual intelligence is an embedded concept. Embedded in the sense that an individual is living in society. When he is in the family, he is surrounded by the family members. When he is in the job, then he is surrounded by fellow colleagues. When he is in the society, then he is again surrounded by various community colleagues. So, then these people are always keeping an eye on the person, and then the interactions that each person is having with others, that is also reflected, and the quality of these interactions is also decided by the spiritual intelligence that one possesses. Now, we can say that when we talk about spiritual intelligence, then the concept of spiritual quotient also comes into picture. But let me say that when we wanted to measure intelligence, we had the standardized test which we can assign to the persons. They can answer the test and their IQ can be measured, and there are standard IQ scores for different age groups, and then the person's IQ assessment is made, that if the person has scored higher marks than the average, then we will say he is highly intelligent. If the average marks are scored, we will say average intelligence is there. If the person scores less marks, then we may say that the intelligence level is low. But when it comes to EQ and SQ, that is emotional quotient and spiritual quotient, then this kind of quantification is not always correct, because many a times we feel that though IQ can be very easily measured, now we are having many emotional intelligence tests also to measure the EQ score, but then it is very difficult to measure the spiritual quotient score because of its qualitative aspects. Because once again it is quite similar to success. How I define spirituality may be entirely different than how others may define spirituality, and then so it may be very difficult to develop a common kind of a test that can enable us to measure the SQ for all the persons. But then the efforts are being made to try and develop some scales which are more pervasive and which are more broad in their scope to try and measure the spiritual quotient of the persons. Then we also find that while IQ is used to primarily solve the problems which are associated with logic and which are associated with quantification, with calculations, etc., EQ is more behavior oriented, in the sense that it gives an employee or a person the kind of assessment that he is working in a situation, how he or she is being judged in a given situation is measured by the emotional quotient. Similarly, the SQ, that is the spiritual quotient, it basically raises different kinds of question, that whether the person has to be in that position or not, whether the person has to be ethical or moral in that situation or not. So, different situations and different challenges and different assignments are given, and the responses are measured. And as I have said, that it is not as easy as measuring IQ and EQ, but some efforts are being made to develop some standard tools for the spiritual quotient. Then we can also relate our day to day working with spiritual intelligence also. We know that by and large most of the Indian managers and Indian employees are God fearing, and in the sense that they know that the environment in which they have been brought up, they have very strict sense of what is right and what is wrong, and in that atmosphere they have grown up. So, people have their own framework of ethics and morality. Only thing is that the business organizations have to take a conscious step towards developing spiritual intelligence in the organization. They will have to develop some specific SQ tools as tailor made, custom made for their own organization. They may have to measure the SQ score of the employees, and sometimes they may have to also try and develop some training programs for improving the spiritual intelligence of the employees, because it is believed that when the spiritual intelligence is high, then the person becomes very much contented, and a person who is contented always remains happy. So, this is the happiness cycle. You are happy because you are contented, you are contented because you are happy. And so, the business organizations are trying to develop a serene kind of atmosphere, that is where the each and every member of the organization is working in tandem with each other for the purpose of achieving the organizational goals. So, in other words, we can say that the type of spiritual intelligence that the organization is having has a lot of bearing on the type of spiritual situations that we develop for the employees. Once again, when we talk about spiritual intelligence, as it has been said, that it is a question of individual. It differs from individual to individual, and it is said that there is one part of the brain which governs our spirituality feelings, and scientists call this as the God spot. So, then the necessity is that we have to identify, we have to know that such a God spot exists, and we have to identify that particular spot and start working on its development, in the sense that our spiritual intelligence may further increase. And in that regard, we can develop certain discussions among the employees of the organization. Sometimes we may have the different employees of different cultures. We have large business organizations where we have multicultural employees. So, in that situation sometimes it may be difficult, but if we make them realize that God is one and all religions more or less advocate the same kind of sermons about the religion. So, then this kind of unanimity can be achieved. We have been talking about spiritual intelligence, in which I was trying to tell you that how being spiritually intelligent helps you both in your life as well as in work.